Today, May 22nd, 2026, is the official release day of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. So, with the release of this movie, I went back and watched all 3 seasons of the Mandalorian show, which led me to think, what are the highest rated episodes of this show? So today we will be taking a look at the highest rated episode of each of the seasons. And just a few things before we start. Din Djarin, I will be referring to as Mando, as that's what most of the characters actually refer to him as. And his name actually wasn't revealed until chapter 8. But saying that, Grogu I will refer to as Grogu, even though his name wasn't revealed until chapter 13. But don't forget to like and subscribe, as I come out with videos every Friday. And let's get into it. In March 2018, it was announced by Lucasfilm that Jon Favreau would executive produce and write a live-action Star Wars series. In October 2018, he announced that the show's name would be called The Mandalorian. Then in December 2018, Pedro Pascal was revealed as the titular character of the series. The series was released on November 12, 2019 on Disney+, almost a month before the release of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, so a teaser trailer could be played after the show. The Mandalorian Season 1, Chapter 8, Redemption 9.2. 2 stormtroopers on a speeder are carrying Grogu in a bag when they radio in saying they're in place, but are told to wait. One of the troopers hits Grogu to shut him up, then the 2 troopers are talking and they hit Grogu again. They're trying to shoot a nearby transmitter but missing every shot. They open the bag to look at Grogu when one of them is poking him and then is bitten, so he hits Grogu. IG-11 arrives saying to stop that. They ask IG to identify himself, pulling out their guns. IG says he is the child's nurse droid and they need to give him back to IG. He then takes one of the stormtroopers out by breaking his arm and flipping him over. He then starts smashing the other into one of the speeders. Then he rescues Grogu, taking the other speeder. Title card. Moff Gideon and his stormtroopers are at a standoff with Mando, Greef Karga and Cara Dune. They are taking cover in a Navarro cantina with the only way out blocked by Gideon. Mando suggests the sewers as that is where the Mandalorians are hiding out, so he scans the room looking for an access point. While outside, the stormtroopers bring in an e-web. Mando finds the sewer vent, so he and Dune try to open it, but can't get through. The troopers have set up the e-web. Gideon says Dune's men in the Republic have been against this weapon before. Gideon even says during the siege of Mandalore that gunships were fitted with this weapon and took out the Mandalorian recruits. Gideon uses Mando's real name of Din Djarin and tells Greef to lay down his arms, but Greef asks what does he propose. He says reasonable negotiation, but will act in his own self-interest, which is their cooperation. They have till nightfall to decide, then Gideon leaves, but Greef says they can't trust what he says. Mando says he knows who the person in charge is. It's Moff Gideon, who they say was supposed to have been executed for his war crimes. Mando says it must be him as he used his real name of Din Djarin. In a flashback, a young Mando is being carried by his parents while people are being shot around them. His parents hide him to keep him safe. A battle droid finds him though, but is shot from behind, being taken out by a Mandalorian. The Mandalorian rescues him while other Mandalorians are fighting droids, and then is taken to safety. Mando tells Greef and Dune that he was a foundling. The only record of his name was in the Register of Mandalore. Gideon was an ISB agent during the Purge, so that is how he knows his name. Mando tries to contact Quill, but they hear Grogu making noises. IG tells them that Quill is dead, and Mando asks what did he do. IG says he's doing his base function to nurse and to protect. IG approaches taking out stormtroopers, shooting all the ones on his way through the town. He comes in shooting, which Mando and the rest use the distraction to give covering fire. Mando picks up the E-Web, taking out more of the troopers. Death Troopers use a thermal detonator on the cantina door, and it knocks down Dune, but she manages to gun down the Death Troopers as they enter the building. Gideon has come back, and he shoots Mando. Mando turns to fire at Gideon, but Gideon shoots the box of ammunition on the ground, causing an explosion, knocking down Mando. They manage to rescue Mando, pulling him back into the cantina. Gideon tells his men to burn them out. Greef asks IG if he can open the grate, which he starts to do. Cara is holding Mando, and he says to leave him. Dune pulls her hand away, and Mando is bleeding. She tries to take his helmet off, but he says no. He gives her his mythosaur necklace to show the Mandalorians, and to say that they were in his protection, and then they should help them. A red-striped incinerator trooper arrives, setting fire to the cantina. The incinerator trooper tries to burn them directly, but Grogu uses the Force to protect them, sending the flame back to the trooper, blowing him up. Grogu then passes out. IG opens the grate. Mando tells Cara to go, but IG gives her Grogu, saying he will stay with Mando. IG tries to take his helmet off to treat him, but Mando pulls a gun on IG, saying no living thing has seen him without his helmet since he swore the decree. IG says he is not a living thing. Then he removes Mando's helmet, spraying him with a Bacta spray to heal him. They enter the sewer, and IG and Mando manage to catch up to Greef and Dune. They search the sewers for the Mandalorians, but find a pile of armor. Mando accuses Greef of getting them killed, but the armorer says it's not his fault, as they chose to reveal themselves, and this was the result of the Imperials. Mando wants her to come with them, but she says not until she has salvaged what remains. She starts to melt down the armor. Mando explains what happened and what Grogu did. She says that she knows of the Jedi. There was a war between Mandalore the Great and the Jedi. Mando asks if it's an enemy, to which she says his kind were, but not this one. He asks what is it. She says a foundling that is now in his care, who he must reunite with his own kind. Mando says he will stay with her, but she says no, you have to protect the foundling until he is reunited with his own kind. Mando is his father. She gives him his signet as he has earned it, attaching a Mudhorn signet saying he is now a clan of two. Imperials have now entered the tunnels. She asks IG to guard the entrance, and he guns down the advancing troopers. The armourer then gives Mando a jetpack, saying to practice with it when he is better, and asks IG to carry it until Mando can, and then they all leave. The armourer is waiting for the Imperials. When they arrive, they ask her where the others are. She then beats them all, even throwing one into a smelter. The others have made it to a lava river to escape. The ferry droid looks broken, but Greef says if they push the boat out, they'll float downstream. The boat is stuck, and Mando and Greef can't move it, when Cara shoots the boat free. The ferry droid comes to life, standing up, asking where they would like to go. Greef says downriver, then the droid starts to row. They see the opening to the tunnel when Mando uses his helmet scanner, seeing stormtroopers waiting for them. Cara tells the ferry droid to stop, but he doesn't listen, so she shoots it. However, they're still moving. They plan to shoot their way out, but they know that they won't survive if they try this. So IG plans to detonate himself to save everyone. IG steps into the lava, walking to the mouth of the tunnel, where he reaches the opening. He detonates the charges, taking out the stormtroopers. The boat exits the tunnel, with all the stormtroopers now defeated. However, Moff Gideon's TIE fighter flies over, firing at the group, and they fire back to no effect. Greef tries to get Grogu to do the magic hand thing, but Grogu just waves at him. Gideon comes back around, so Mando uses the jetpack to fly up, attaching himself to the TIE fighter. He tries to shoot his way into the cockpit, but is thrown on the wing. He tries to stick a detonator, but drops it. He manages to stick a second one to the wing, causing Gideon to spin out of control, crash landing. Mando manages to escape and land safely. Cara has decided to stay on Navarro, and Greef offers her to become an enforcer. He then says Mando would be allowed to rejoin the guild, but Mando says he has more pressing matters to attend to. Cara says to look after Grogu. Brief says maybe he'll take care of Mando. Mando and Grogu then leave, but first they find Quill and bury his body. They're in the Razor Crest when he asks what Grogu has. It's Mando's necklace, but he tells Grogu to hold on to it. At Gideon's TIE Fighter, Jawas are scavenging when they are scared away. Gideon uses the Darksaber to cut his way out, standing on top of his TIE Fighter. Honestly, this whole first series was so good. The last episode was no exception. A lot happens to wrap up certain storylines, but also sets up the future. IG-11's death was sad, Mando realising that IG had changed, but also the audience finding out why Mando doesn't like droids is because his parents were killed by some. The reveal that Grogu is a Jedi, which was obvious to us as it was hinted at earlier in the series, but it was nice to be reassured. The twist at the end, seeing Gideon with the Darksaber, opened up a lot of questions about where he gets it from and how he got it, and those questions do actually get answered. In July 2019, Jon Favreau confirmed that he was working on Season 2 of The Mandalorian, with Disney announcing in February 2020 that the series would release in October of the same year. The Mandalorian Season 2, Chapter 16, The Rescue 9.8. An Imperial ship is being chased by Boba Fett, who is in his Slave 1. He hits them with an ion cannon, shutting down the ship. They then board the Imperial ship. Mando is the first to enter with his gun pointing at them. He is there for Pershing, as he knows where they're hiding Grogu. One of the pilots holds Pershing at gunpoint. Cara Dune then enters the room. The other Imperial is pleading with them when he is shot in the back by the other pilot. The pilot then starts to berate Cara after seeing her tattoo, saying that the destruction of Alderaan was a small price to pay to rid the galaxy of terrorism. She shoots the pilot in the face, grazing Pershing on the ear. She then walks past Mando as he just watches her walk by. Title card. Boba's ship is heading for a planet, landing and going into a nearby diner. Inside, they see Bo-Katan Kryze and Koska Reeves. Mando asks for their help as Gideon has Grogu. Bo-Katan says they'll never find him, turning back to their table. Boba says they don't need these two, and Bo-Katan then says that Boba is no Mandalorian, to which Boba replies he never said he was. Bo-Katan says that Boba is a disgrace to his armour, and Boba says that this armour once belonged to his father. She says that he's just a clone, that she has heard his voice 1,000 times before, and Boba threatens her, saying this may be the last one she hears. Koska and Boba start fighting, blocking each other's attacks. She knees him in the stomach, then DDTs him with the assist from her jetpack. They both then use their flamethrower gauntlets, until Bo-Katan tells them enough, and if they showed that much spine to the Empire, they wouldn't have lost their planet. Bo-Katan says she will help them, but wants Gideon's light cruiser to take back Mandalore, and wants Mando to reconsider joining their efforts of taking back Mandalore. She also says that she wants Gideon for herself, as he is in possession of the Darksaber, and with the Darksaber, she can lead Mandalore once again. On the ship, Bo-Katan shows a schematic of Gideon's light cruiser, saying it used to carry several hundred people, but now only a fraction of that. Pershing corrects her, saying that that is not correct, as Gideon now has Dark Troopers aboard, which are now droids instead of people in suits. Later on, they take the Imperial ship from earlier, making it look like Boba is chasing them, requesting help from Gideon's light cruiser. They send TIE fighters to help them. Bo-Katan is heading for the launch tubes where the TIE fighters are coming from and crashes in there. Boba takes out a TIE fighter before jumping to hyperspace. Inside the hangar, the rest, apart from Mando, who holds back, starts to take out the troopers. Gideon tells his people to activate the Dark Troopers, but they need to power up first. Mando then leaves the ship to go find the Dark Troopers and then save Grogu. Bo-Katan, Koska, Cara Dune and Fennec Shand take out more stormtroopers together. Then they carry on through the ship, taking out even more stormtroopers. Dark Troopers are now fully powered, and Mando gets to where they are, overriding the door controls, but one manages to escape. His blasts have no effect on the trooper. It pins Mando to the wall and continuously punches his helmet. He tries to set it on fire, but is then thrown across the corridor. He uses his Beskar staff, stabbing it through the head, deactivating it. Mando then ejects the rest of the Dark Troopers into space. Bo-Katan and her group have made it to the bridge, taking out the troopers there. However, Gideon is gone. Mando makes it to where they are holding Grogu, taking out the two guards. When he opens the door, he sees Gideon holding Grogu hostage with the Darksaber, telling Mando to drop his blaster. Gideon tells Mando he worked out their plan and he knows that Bo-Katan wants the Darksaber back. Mando says he can keep it, he just wants Grogu. Gideon says he just wanted Grogu's blood as it has the power to bring balance to the galaxy. He says he can now take him, but he must leave immediately. As Mando goes to pick up Grogu, Gideon attacks with the saber, but Mando manages to block with his armor. He uses his Beskar staff to fight off Gideon. He eventually manages to defeat him, but spares his life. He brings him to the bridge. Gideon says that because Mando defeated him, that the Darksaber now belongs to him. He tries to give it to Bo-Katan, but they explain it must be won in battle, so she can't take it. Alarms start to go off on the bridge as they are being boarded, but it is showing no life forms. It turns out to be the Dark Troopers who are heading towards the bridge. They seal the blast doors for more protection, but they have already made it. So they get ready to fight them as the Dark Troopers are punching the door. They then see an X-Wing outside and they ask for them to identify themselves, but they get no response. Dark Troopers stop, turning their attention to something else. A hooded figure appears and he is taking out the troopers with a lightsaber. They are all watching on the screen when Gideon shoots at Bo-Katan, then tries to shoot Grogu, but Mando jumps in the way, saving him. The others tell him to drop it, but he tries to shoot himself in the face when Dune knocks the blaster from him and knocks him down. The Jedi use the lift to the hallway of the bridge, taking out the remaining droids that are there. Mando tells them to open the door. They say he's crazy, but he opens it himself. The Jedi steps in, putting away his lightsaber. He removes his hood, revealing it to be Luke Skywalker. Mando asks if he's a Jedi, which Luke confirms he is. He then tells Grogu to come with him, but Mando says it doesn't look like he wants to go. Luke says he is waiting for Mando to give him permission. He says he is strong with the Force, but talent without training means nothing, and Luke says he will give his life to protect him. Mando picks up Grogu, saying he belongs with his own kind and they will see each other again, he promises. Mando takes off his helmet to show Grogu his face. He tells him it's time to go and don't be afraid. R2-D2 appears and Luke picks up Grogu, saying may the Force be with you to Mando, and they leave. Post-credit, Bib Fortuna is talking with his henchmen when they hear screaming and gunfire. Shand then walks down the stairs, killing two of Bib's men and freeing a Twi'lek slave girl. Boba walks down the stairs, with Fortuna saying he thought Boba was dead. Boba then shoots and kills Fortuna, dumping his body off the throne and taking his place on it. I remember watching this episode for the first time when it was released and seeing Luke and just losing my mind at how cool it was. That's no different this time. I think it's great. The fact they keep you hooked as well, as you first see the X-Wing and you're like, Luke flies one of those, but it might not be him. You see a guy with a green saber and you're like, Luke has one, but it could be a fake out. Then you see the one black glove and you're like, Luke has one black glove from his fight with Vader, but you don't know, it might just be a fashion thing. Then he reveals his face and I was like, it's Luke! I did also like the Bo-Katan, Koska, Cara Dune and Fennec Shand were also so badass. The way they just took out all the troopers was great. The Mando fight with Gideon was short, but it was to the point, and Mando trying to give Bo-Katan the Darksaber, but she can't take it as it doesn't work that way. It was quite funny and the look of shock on her face. The post-credit scene set up the Book of Boba Fett spin-off, which was so-so in itself. It's a series I need to rewatch to proper gauge on if I liked it or not, as it's been a long time since I've watched it. After the second season finale, people started to speculate that Boba Fett would replace Din Djarin in The Mandalorian. However, Jon Favreau confirmed that the Book of Boba Fett would be its own separate show, and Season 3 was announced to be released on March 1st, 2023 on Disney+. The Mandalorian, Season 3, Chapter 23, The Spies, 8.7. On a planet, Elia Kane meets with a probe droid that she uses to contact Moff Gideon. She says there was a problem as the Mandalorians have interfered, saying the two factions have combined. Gideon says that's not possible as both factions hate each other, but for her to continue her mission and he'll deal with the Mandalorians. He then enters a room full of hologram Imperials who are called the Shadow Council. Gilipelion says the return of Grand Admiral Thrawn will help them against the New Republic. Gideon says that maybe they should look to new leadership as Thrawn has yet to make his return. Hux asks about Pershing, but Gideon says he was captured by the New Republic. Gideon tells the Shadow Council that he wants more resources for protection against the Mandalorians, and they agree to give him his resources and reinforcements. Title card. On Navarro, a droid tells Greef Karga that an Imperial light cruiser has arrived, but Greef says it's a light cruiser owned by the Mandalorians, and they are their guests. Bo-Katan Kryze says this is the first meeting of the two groups. Her clan disembark their ship. Paz Vizsla tells his son to take the children inside. However, the armourer welcomes the Mandalorians, telling them to make camp while they make a feast. Greef meets with Mando, giving him a bottle of Coruscant liquor as a gift, but also says he has another gift for him. Back in his office, an IG unit comes in. Greef says he is IG-12, who has no memory and is instead piloted by someone. Greef says it's for Grogu, then places him inside of it to see if he fits. Mando says he's too young for it, but Grogu keeps hitting a no button. Greef says let him take it for a spin, which he then starts pressing the yes button. Mando says he can't have it, but then it cuts to them walking through the town together with Grogu in the IG-12. At the Mandalorian camp, it is very tense and everyone is being standoffish. Bo-Katan says that it's time to take their home world back, but it's still dangerous there as the bombings have awoken dormant species, and with the magnetic interference making it hard to scan the surface to see what is down there. Bo-Katan wants everyone to leave Navarro, but wants a small scouting party to recon on the surface of Mandalore to see what remains of the Great Forge, then set up a perimeter so the rest can join them. She asks for volunteers from both tribes. Mando offers himself and Grogu, so does Koska Reeves, then others from both sides volunteer along with the armourer. They leave Navarro, arriving at Mandalore. The scouting party descend to the surface. The Mandalorians on jetpacks land on the surface first to make sure the area is clear, leading Bo-Katan to land the ship. They then go scouting for a safety zone to set up a camp, but Mando sees something in the horizon. It's a land cruiser, and on the land cruiser are other Mandalorians who recognizes Bo-Katan's voice. They bow their heads to her, saying that they failed her, but their blasters remain in her service. Later on, when they are eating, one of the Mandalorians says the Empire punished them because they refused to surrender. Bo-Katan says that is not true, as she did surrender. She says that she contacted Moff Gideon, saying the Mandalorian's life must be spared, and that is how he got the Darksaber, as she surrendered it to him. He then betrayed her by bringing on the Purge of Mandalore. Another survivor asks how they survived. The armourer tells him that they were hidden on the moon of Concordia. Later on, Mando tells Bo-Katan he didn't know what she did, that they were always told that she was selfish and uncaring. She says she was selfish, that is why what happened happened. Bo-Katan then says she is worried she can't keep the people together, the only thing she has is the Darksaber. Mando says to his people the weapon doesn't mean anything, it's what she stands for and what she does is why they stand with her. He says that her song has not been written, and that he will serve her until her song is written. Bo-Katan tells the rest of the people that in the morning the armourer will take the wounded back to the fleet, while any of the new people who are well enough will join them in searching for the Great Forge. But they say they can do better than that and they can bring them straight to it. The next day they set off for the Great Forge while the armourer returns to the fleet to take the wounded. While travelling, Paz Vizsla and Axe Woves are playing a board game when they start to disagree on the rules. Paz pulls a vibroblade saying submit or fight. Az then attacks Paz and they start fighting each other. Mando asks Bo-Katan if he should step in, but she says neither side can step in as it was bound to happen. They are both landing shots on each other, but Grogu steps in, hitting his no button, stopping the fight. Bo-Katan says he has taught his apprentice well, but he says he didn't learn that from him. Mando and Grogu share a nod between each other when they see something in the distance come out of the ground. They have to abandon the ship when the creature destroys it with its tail. They then head for a cave for safety, and they say they're not far from the forge, but they need to go deeper in the cave. They eventually make it to where the Great Forge is, but they hear jetpacks in the distance, and it is Imperials, who start shooting at them. They return fire and realise they're wearing Beskar armour. Axe says he will try to escape to get reinforcements from the fleet, so Paz lays down covering fire so he can escape. The Imperials get close, so they fight hand to hand, overpowering them. The Imperials start to retreat. The Mandalorians follow them into the caves, but it is a trap, and all but 4 are locked behind blast doors. 3 of the Mandalorians are killed, leaving only Mando, who is restrained and disarmed. Moff Gideon arrives, saying he has made the next generation of Dark Troopers suits with Beskar. He says he will create an army to take over the galaxy, then gives an order to activate the Inceptors and Bombers to take out the fleet above. Gideon tells them to take Mando to a debriefing room, then tells Bo-Katan to surrender the Darksaber and to tell her people that Mandalore is now his. Paz says this is the way, then he opens fire on the door while Bo-Katan runs to the other door using the Darksaber to cut through it. Gideon tells his men to open the blast doors and kill them, he then flies off. Bo-Katan makes an opening, telling her people to move out, with Paz saying he will cover the rear. Bo-Katan tells him they're clear and for him to fall back as they won't leave him behind. He shuts the blast doors, however, telling her to go as there are too many of them. He opens fire on them, but his gun quickly overheats, so he takes them hand to hand, managing to beat them. However, 3 Imperial Patronian guards show up with shock sticks. Paz activates his shield and vibroblade, however they are too much for him, defeating him easily, then they walk away. All of the highest rated episodes have been amazing, this one is no exception. After this, there is one more episode where they do defeat Moff Gideon, but also the Darksaber is destroyed. I do like that Bo-Katan has become this leader, but does feel like a bit of an imposter, until Mando tells her that he will follow her, giving her this confidence as this tribe listens and trusts Mando. Also, the mix of comedy and seriousness is great. When Grogu gets his IG-12 suit, Mando is against it, but Grogu is stubborn and wants it, so he gets it, showing Mando as a pushover as a dad. The surprise of having surviving Mandalorians was a bit confusing, as how did they not know Gideon was there? As surely they would have noticed him bringing in all this equipment. It just seems a little bit fishy to me. But there we have it. What did you think? Have you watched these episodes? Let me know in the comments. And as always, until next time, I'll see you again.